File number 123 slated for today. Okay, I assume, huh? What's the submission?
The laws, the bridge between condemnation and redemption, seek to prevent and correct rather than convict and condemn. Laws are the defining force of nature that reveals the existence of how things are, how things should and could be. Man's lust for power saw him sway away from the path of truth and tread on a path of destruction. In the nick of time, the truth became a lie and the life lost its breath and conceded to death.
The future the Father had arranged for us seemed to shred, all because we chose our own fate over His grace. And the life we believed to be life was nothing but strife. We were so blind to see the glory we had forsaken and the darkness we had embraced. Although God let the door to His presence open, we still walked on in sin. Something had to be done to correct the defects in the once glorious image in the likeness of His holiness. Man, having lost intimacy with God and falling short of His glory, shameful, dishonored, undeserving of the presence of His majesty, was still given the grace to receive amnesty and pride, not in ostentation, but in submission, as a perfect bride befitting the eminence of His majesty.
God could have wiped us all out and started a new creation over again, yet He chose to love us regardless. The purpose and passion of God for mankind is the establishment of His heavenly kingdom on earth. There is a function to keep creation in order, a way to build this kingdom community. Creation was designed to function by love, and the expression of this love is our obedience to His commandments. This we know. When the choice to live or die was laid before man in Eden, and God commanded man not to eat from the forbidden tree. Man's only task was to love God in obedience, to keep the intimacy and harmony of mutual love that existed and ensure the unceasing flow of life that comes from God without restriction or limitation. Man's first act of expressing gratitude to and love for God ended in parole and rebellion when the command, "Do not eat from the tree of knowledge, good and evil," was disobeyed.
Man became an outcast,
Stripe of glory,
undeserving of God's holy presence.
broken and bruised beyond recognition, in whose image he was created.
Although the man was out of His presence, he was not totally out of sight. Out of reach of intimacy, God had already set in motion a plan to restore glory through disobedience to His commands. Failed to please Him in love. Yet, a relentless God set a restorative plan to correct the defect and a chance for us to express our love for Him in obedience. And first look at the laws, the 10 commandments. We feel a sense of fear, dishonor, discomfort, intimidation, restriction, and agitation. This is how difficult sin makes it for us to see the path God laid for us to return and remain in Him. By the law, the knowledge of sin is the need for us to receive grace and redemption. These laws were not meant to execute men, but as a means to reconcile men unto themselves, just as in the beginning, as a bride clings unto her groom.
The plan unfolds when Abraham, a friend of the groom, was chosen to bless the nations through his family, who ended up in slavery, mishandled and mistreated, suffering in the clutches of Pharaoh in Egypt. God, still carrying out His plan for all humanity, to bring sanity to an insatiable world and restore man's dignity and glory, brought man out from under the rule of wickedness to the place where dominion of divinity over humanity could be re-established, and the love which once existed could be reiterated as man's response in obedience to His love, as an expression of our love for God.
In the 3rd month, in the cool of the day, the presence of the Lord was announced with thunder and flashes of lightning, accompanied by a thick cloud over the mountain. The whole mount quaked as the Lord descended upon it in fire. Moses accepted the invitation to climb atop the mountain to receive the hope of man's restoration. God's commandments, carved by God Himself on tablets of stones. The first of these laws reveals God's desire to make provision for reconnecting man unto Himself, the bond between a bride and a groom. So it says,
love the Lord your God with all your heart, mind, and soul.
Then continues to add in the laws,
thou shalt not worship any other God apart from me.
This is the indication for reiteration. The review of this law shows the deepest expression of the desire for holiness, restoration, and restoration. Obedience to these laws clears our conscience of guilt and opens our heart to God's invitation to restore us to the place of glory. So the commandments are embedded with laws that seek to abolish sin in a bid to ignite righteousness and holiness. So he says,
thou shalt not murder,
thou shalt not steal,
thou shalt not commit adultery,
thou shalt not bear false witness,
nor covet your neighbor's spouse. From the time of creation to the fullness of time. From Adam, Noah, Abraham, Moses, Joshua, Samuel, Elijah, and Elisha, down to all the judges and the prophets, to whoever have walked before the Lord. God's law never departed from them. In submission, they succumbed to his decrees. With precision, they executed his commands because they understood that the laws which they had received from the Lord was an attractive force and not a repulsive force to bring them into his presence. And that's exactly what we are invited to do and where we have to be.
As the groom, the man is the head of the home and make sure the home is in order. So is God, our groom. Our head makes sure we are orderly and aligned in purpose, his purpose, in purpose, his purpose. So a bride and a groom cannot work in the same direction with respect and love if they both have separate minds and hearts. God does not intimidate us with laws, but it is a necessary precaution to create a path for us that leads to righteousness and holiness.
The groom awaits his bride, inseparable and committed like minds and hearts, abiding in a place of glory, not by compulsion, but by love, to reveal himself in a most glorious way when we pledge our allegiance and our submission to his laws, a symbol of hope and restoration to man.
God's got a plan for you.
Empty your heart and mind of guilt. Take his hands and be his bride. Even if you feel drifted away
from him,
you are not out of sight. You are loved.
Tell a friend to tell a friend.
Iamhisglory
Tello tells
the laws.
And those were the Esquires of PS5. Tello tells and Iamhisglory.